Last month, a woman in Ohio pulled back her kitchen cabinet and found this: black mold, growing silently behind her walls for over a year. Her family had been breathing it in every single day, and they had no idea. She called a professional remediation company. The quote? $4,700. But here is what nobody told her. Sitting in her kitchen pantry, right next to the mold, were two items that cost less than $3 combined. Two items that, according to peer-reviewed science, can eliminate mold more effectively than the $60 spray she had been using for months. So why didn't she know about them? Why doesn't anyone? That is exactly what we are going to uncover today. And by the end of this video, you will have a step-by-step protocol that could save you thousands of dollars and maybe even protect your family's health. Welcome to Historia Prime. Part 1. The Invisible Enemy. What mold actually is. Before we talk about the cure, we need to understand what we are actually fighting. Because mold is not what most people think it is. You see that black stain on your bathroom ceiling, that fuzzy patch in the corner of your basement. That is not the mold. That is just the part you can see. Mold is a living organism. It is a microscopic fungus that has been evolving on this planet for over 400 million years long before humans built their first shelter. And it is extraordinarily good at one thing: surviving. Here is what makes mold so dangerous. A single mold colony releases millions of spores into the air. These spores are tiny, between 1 and 30 micrometers across. To put that in perspective, a human hair is about 70 micrometers. These spores are small enough to pass through most air filters, float through your entire HVAC system, and settle on surfaces throughout your home. And they can remain dormant for years. All they need is a little moisture, a little warmth, and a food source, which, by the way, includes the paper backing on your drywall, the glue in your wallpaper, and the dust on your shelves. Now here are the numbers that should concern you. An estimated 45 million buildings in the United States currently harbor unhealthy levels of mold. Environmental health researchers have directly linked indoor mold exposure to approximately 21% of all asthma cases in the country. We are not talking about a little sneeze, we are talking about chronic respiratory disease, severe allergic reactions, weakened immune systems, and in extreme cases, neurological damage. This is not a cosmetic issue. This is a public health crisis hiding behind your drywall. But here is what fascinates me. Long before the EPA existed, long before we had electron microscopes to study fungal biology, ordinary people already knew how to fight this enemy. And their methods were remarkably effective. The wisdom of the ancients. Let us travel back to the 1800s. In rural Somerset, England, and deep in the Appalachian Mountains of America, families were battling mold every single winter. They had no commercial products, no synthetic chemicals, no bleach. What they had was observation and experimentation passed down through generations. Historical records from the 1840s, household journals, personal diaries, estate management books, show a consistent pattern. Women were documenting specific methods for eliminating mold from stone walls, wooden beams, and damp cellars. And two ingredients appear again and again across completely independent sources separated by an entire ocean: white vinegar and baking soda. They did not know the word pH. They could not have told you what a fungal cell membrane was. But through decades of trial and observation, they had discovered something profound. Certain acids destroy the structure of mold, and alkaline environments prevent it from growing back. This was survival knowledge. Essential, practical, proven. So what happened to it? Part 2. The Great Chemical Takeover. How we were made to forget. The answer begins in the 1950s. The post-World War II era completely transformed American households. The same industrial chemistry that had produced weapons, explosives, and synthetic materials for the war effort was suddenly redirected toward consumer products. and the cleaning industry was born almost overnight. Suddenly, the old ways were not just outdated, they were actively ridiculed. Traditional remedies were rebranded as primitive, unsafe, old wives' tales. The message pumped into every television set and women's magazine was crystal clear. Only laboratory chemicals can protect your family. Trust the product, trust the label, do not trust yourself. And the undisputed champion of this new era was one product: bleach, sodium hypochlorite. Even today, 70 years later, when most people see mold, their first instinct is to grab the bleach. It feels powerful, it smells powerful, it turns the mold white, so it looks like it is gone. But it is not gone. The bleach illusion. Here is the truth that no bleach manufacturer wants on the front of the bottle. Bleach does not kill mold on porous surfaces. Let me explain why, because this is critical. Mold does not just sit on the surface of your wall. It extends microscopic, root-like structures called hyphae deep into the material. Think of it like an iceberg. What you see on the surface is maybe 10% of the actual organism. The other 90% is embedded inside the drywall, the wood, the grout. Now, the chemical structure of sodium hypochlorite bleach has a very large molecular weight. On hard, non-porous surfaces like glass or glazed tile, it works perfectly fine. It sits on the surface where the mold is and it kills it. No problem. But on porous materials, drywall, untreated wood, carpet backing, concrete, the bleach molecules physically cannot penetrate the surface. They are too large. So what actually happens is this. The chlorine bleaches the top layer, making the mold invisible to your eye. Meanwhile, the water in the bleach, which makes up about 95% of the solution, soaks deep into the material. Read that again. The chlorine stays on top. The water goes deep. You just fed the mold. The hidden roots detect the chemical attack on the surface. They retreat deeper. They use the fresh water you just provided, and 2 to 3 weeks later, the mold comes back, often worse than before. The EPA has actually stated, in their own guidelines, that bleach is not recommended for routine mold cleanup. But how many people know that? How many people read EPA technical guidelines before cleaning their bathroom? And here is the part that should make you angry. This is not an accident. It is the perfect business model. Sell a product that hides the problem, guarantees the customer has to come back, and never actually solves anything. So if bleach does not work, and the industry knows it does not work, what exactly have they been selling us for 70 years? Part 3. The viral myth. Why mixing vinegar and baking soda does nothing. Now, as people have started waking up to the problems with harsh chemicals, there has been a massive wave of natural cleaning content on the internet. And I love that impulse. The desire to use safer, cheaper, more natural products is absolutely the right direction. But there is a problem. A big one. If you have spent more than 5 minutes on TikTok or YouTube, you have seen it. Someone pours white vinegar on a surface, dumps baking soda on top, it fizzes and foams aggressively, and everyone in the comments says, "That is amazing, so powerful." It looks incredible. It feels like you just unleashed a chemical weapon on the grime. But here is the thing. That fizzing reaction, it is not cleaning anything. And I want to explain exactly why, because understanding this will change the way you clean your entire home. The chemistry, made simple. Imagine you have 2 boxes. One is an aggressive attacker, that is the vinegar. The other is a strong defender, that is the baking soda. Individually, each one is formidable. Each one can do serious damage in a fight. But instead of sending them into the ring one at a time to fight the mold, you throw them at each other first. They collide, they exhaust all their energy fighting each other, and by the time the actual enemy shows up, they are both spent. That is exactly what happens when you mix vinegar and baking soda. Here is the actual chemistry. White distilled vinegar is a weak organic acid. It contains about 5 to 8% acetic acid and has a pH of roughly 2.5. Baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, is a mild alkaline substance with a pH of about 8.3. One is acidic, the other is basic. They are chemical opposites. When you combine them, they undergo a neutralization reaction. The acetic acid reacts with the sodium bicarbonate to produce carbonic acid, which immediately breaks down into two things: water and carbon dioxide gas. That gas is the fizz. And once the fizz stops, what is left in your bowl? Water and a trace amount of sodium acetate. That is it. Slightly salty water with a neutral pH. It cannot penetrate a fungal cell wall. It cannot dissolve grease. It cannot kill anything. The very properties that made each ingredient useful have been completely destroyed. So why does everyone think it works? Two reasons. First, the human brain is wired to associate dramatic visual effects with powerful results. When something bubbles aggressively, our instinct says, "That must be working." It is the same reason we feel like spicy food is cleaning us out. It is just a sensation, not a function. Second, the carbon dioxide bubbles do provide a very brief, very mild mechanical lifting action. Like sparkling water loosening a coffee stain on your shirt. But that is physical agitation, not chemical cleaning. You could get the same effect with a damp cloth and some elbow grease. Here is the punchline. The cleaning industry knows this, and they love it. Every time a frustrated person tries a DIY natural cleaner, does it wrong, gets no results, and goes back to buying the expensive synthetic spray, that is a customer recaptured. The myth of mixing vinegar and baking soda is actually one of the best things that ever happened to the commercial cleaning industry. But here is the secret they do not want you to figure out. Each ingredient is powerful. You just have to use them correctly. And that means using them separately. We will get to the exact protocol in a moment, but first, there is a deeper question we need to answer. Part 4. Why you cannot buy this. The politics of cleaning. If vinegar and baking soda are so effective when used properly, there is an obvious question. Why is no company selling a proper, ready-to-use natural mold remediation kit? Why can you not find this on the shelf at Home Depot or Walmart? The answer involves chemistry, federal law, and a lot of money. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. The regulatory barrier. In the United States, there is a law called the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, FIFRA. Under this law, any product that claims to kill mold, eliminate fungus, or disinfect must be officially registered as a pesticide with the EPA. That registration process requires extensive clinical trials, proving the product kills 99.9% of specific pathogens under controlled laboratory conditions. The testing alone costs millions of dollars, and that is before marketing, distribution, and liability insurance. Now ask yourself this question. What company is going to spend $10 million to register a product whose active ingredients, vinegar and baking soda, are generic commodities that any person can buy for $3 at any grocery store? There is no patent. There is no proprietary formula. There is no competitive moat. The moment you launch the product, your customer realizes they can just make it themselves. It is a business model that cannot exist. And there is a practical problem too. If you tried to bottle vinegar and baking soda together, the continuous release of carbon dioxide gas would build pressure inside the container, potentially up to 150 pounds per square inch. The bottles would literally explode on store shelves. So the regulatory framework, combined with basic chemistry, creates a situation where the most effective natural mold treatment simply cannot be commercialized in a traditional retail format. But that is the charitable explanation. There is also a less comfortable one. The money behind the shelves. The commercial cleaning product industry generates over $2 billion annually on mold inhibitors alone. That is an enormous market, and it is a market built on one fundamental assumption, that consumers cannot solve this problem themselves. If everyone knew how to use $3 worth of pantry ingredients to eliminate mold, that $2 billion market would collapse overnight. So the industry has a vested interest in making sure you do not know. For decades, cleaning product companies hid their ingredients behind federal, confidential business information protections. You could not find out what was actually in the products you were spraying in your home, the home where your children sleep, where your family eats. When California attempted to pass the Cleaning Product Right to Know Act in 2017, requiring companies to disclose ingredients linked to asthma and cancer on their labels, the industry fought back aggressively. Lobbying groups representing major corporations like Procter & Gamble and Dow Chemical spent millions opposing transparency legislation. We have even seen a revolving door between industry lobbying groups and the government agencies meant to regulate them. Former industry lobbyists have been appointed to senior positions in the EPA's Chemical Safety Division, the very office responsible for protecting the public from dangerous chemicals. The goal is not complicated. Keep consumers dependent on proprietary formulas. Keep the ingredients hidden. Keep the traditional knowledge forgotten. And keep the money flowing. So how do we break free from this system? Part 5. The $3 Protocol. Your step-by-step guide. This is the moment you have been waiting for. Everything we have talked about, the history, the science, the industry manipulation, it all leads here. To a 3-step protocol that costs under $3, uses items already in your pantry, and is backed by actual peer-reviewed research. Here is the critical principle. The 2 ingredients must be used sequentially, not simultaneously. Remember the 2 boxes? We send them in one at a time. First the attacker, then the defender. Let us begin. Step 1. The acid attack. White vinegar. Take plain, undiluted white distilled vinegar. Do not water it down. Pour it directly into a clean spray bottle. Why vinegar? Because acetic acid is a proven fungicidal agent. Research has demonstrated that household vinegar can kill up to 82% of mold species, including Stachybotrys chartarum, what most people call black mold. Here is how it works at the cellular level. When you spray vinegar on the mold, the acetic acid diffuses through the cell membrane of the fungus. Once inside the cell, it releases hydrogen ions, protons, which drastically lower the internal pH. This disrupts the mold's metabolic processes and physically destroys its cell wall from the inside out. But here is the part most people get wrong. They spray it on and immediately start scrubbing. Do not do that. Spray the vinegar generously over the entire affected area and then walk away. Leave it for a minimum of 1 full hour. The acid needs time to penetrate the hyphae, those microscopic roots that extend deep into porous surfaces. If you scrub too early, you remove the acid before it can reach the roots, and you are right back where you started. 1 hour, minimum. Set a timer and resist the urge. Step 2. The physical removal. After 1 hour, the mold spores are dead or dying. Now you scrub. Use a stiff bristled brush and warm water. Scrub the area thoroughly, then wipe it clean and dry it completely. This step matters more than people realize. Even dead mold spores can trigger severe allergic reactions. The proteins in dead spores are still recognized by your immune system as foreign invaders. So killing the mold is only half the job. You have to physically remove it. Once the area is clean and dry, we move to the most important step. Step 3. The alkaline shield, baking soda. Mix 1/4 tablespoon of baking soda into 1 cup of warm water. Stir until dissolved. Pour this into a clean spray bottle. Spray this solution over the exact area you just cleaned. And here is the key. Do not rinse it off. Let it air dry completely. Why? Because baking soda is fungistatic, meaning it does not just kill mold, it prevents mold from growing back. Here is what is happening. The baking soda shifts the surface pH from acidic to alkaline, somewhere around 8.3 to 9.0. Mold cannot reproduce in alkaline environments. Its cellular machinery simply does not function above a certain pH. But there is a second mechanism that makes this even more effective. Baking soda is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture from its surrounding environment. So the microscopic film of baking soda you just left on that surface is actively pulling moisture out of the material. And without moisture, mold cannot germinate, period. You have just created an invisible, alkaline, moisture-absorbing shield on the surface. Future mold spores that land there will find an environment that is chemically hostile and physically dry. They cannot grow, they cannot reproduce, they die. 3 steps, 1 hour, $3. And you just accomplished what a $60 product could not. The bigger picture, why this matters. I want to leave you with something bigger than a cleaning tip. Mold is a symptom. It is a symptom of moisture, of leaking pipes, poor ventilation, condensation from temperature changes. The protocol we just covered treats the outbreak, but true, permanent mold prevention means controlling the environment. Fix the leaks, improve your airflow, use exhaust fans, monitor humidity levels, ideally keeping them below 50%. But beyond the practical, there is a principle here that applies to much more than mold. For 70 years, an entire industry has been built on a simple idea: that you are not capable of solving your own problems, that you need their proprietary formula, their patented compound, their brightly colored bottle with the reassuring label. They spent billions in advertising to make you forget what your great-grandmother knew by the time she was 12. And that forgetting was not an accident. It was a strategy. But chemistry does not care about marketing budgets. Science does not care about lobbying groups. The acetic acid in a $2 bottle of vinegar does not know that it is supposed to be inferior to a $60 spray. It just works. By understanding the science behind the tools already in your home, you reclaim something the industry spent decades trying to take from you: your independence. Share this video with someone who is still buying bleach for their mold problem. Every person who learns this is one less customer for a system that profits from ignorance. I am Historia Prime. Stay curious, stay resilient. I will see you in the next one.